happened to her as a result of the work that she's doing. And she's the founder and the executive director of Bridge Initiative. Kate, welcome to the program. Welcome.
Thank you,
and I'm
Meredith.
thrilled to have you.
Thank you. It's so nice to be here with you guys.
Kate, it all happened. I got to meet your mother, who actually I knew before, but we had a little chat a few weeks ago, month ago, and people were talking about you and the impact that you're making, you know, with your project, with your nonprofit. And I was like, my ears were just, it was like I had to meet you. I had to speak with you. So I got a hold of you. We started talking, and I went, this is really what we're talking about when we talk about change. So first of all, Kate, tell us a little bit about Bridge Initiative so people can get a feel for what it is that you're doing.
Sure. So Bridge is a nonprofit that connects art and science in order to create public art about environmental advocacy. So it was launched in 2018 with an expedition in Southeast Alaska with Alaska Whale Foundation and artist David Benjamin Cherry. And we created a little film and did some billboards around America with the images that he took. And now we've recently been working on a series of 10 different artist projects here in South Florida, focusing on Biscayne Bay and the Everglades and our natural resources here. So we have a bunch of things going on. It's called
You've got a lot going on. When I started reading, looking at your website and reading about you, it was quite impressive. But I wanted to maybe just mention what you were doing before, which I don't know if it's totally related to what you're doing now, and how you made that transition.
Yeah, so I worked for 19 years or so in fashion, and I was an accessories designer and had like a very different career, and working in New York City and also in Europe a lot. And I went to Antarctica on a trip with my dad. It was like his bucket list trip to go to Antarctica with National Geographic Lindblad expedition. And it really changed my life. And I was like, I have to do something about climate change. And then I was like, what am I going to do? I'm a bag designer. But yeah, eventually I thought and came up with the idea of creating a nonprofit, and Bridge Initiative was born.
So Kate, when you were talking about, we'll come back to this. Why don't we get a little glimpse of your adventures in Alaska? Okay. And you weren't there in this video, you produced this video, but you were there. You took the trip.
I was there.
Yes, this was you. You were behind this video, you created this video, and I think people will get more of a sense.
Representing the Alaska Whale Foundation, but in many ways I'm also acting as a guide for David Benjamin Cherry. I am trying to really show him the Alaska that inspired me.
For years I had been photographing landscape as just this place of human connection to nature and the power of it, and all of a sudden I realized that I'm also watching these landscapes change. That I couldn't help but focus on it. My process is really different than most photographers. I use a large format 8x10 film camera, which is the historic way that the American West has been documented. It's one of the only cameras that you're not behind the camera taking the picture. You actually have to put the film in and observe it from a real perspective. It just feels like watching life move and then slowly stop. All I I know as an artist and a photographer living through this day and age is that it's changing so quickly and so drastically, and all I can do is record it and try to speak about it and try to deliver that back and open their minds.
If you want to understand how natural ecosystems function, you have to travel to one that haven't been so heavily impacted. This is the largest tract of temperate rainforest on the planet. This is one of the world's great fjord regions where you can find some of the largest ice fields and the highest density of so many top predators like humpback whales, brown bears and black bears, things you only find in high-functioning, pristine ecosystems. But even here, you can see human impacts if you know where to look. We're losing large swaths of forest. We're seeing dramatic changes in snow patterns. We're seeing glaciers recede at shockingly fast rates. The irony is, I came to Southeast Alaska because it was pristine, it was magical to me, and yet here is where I feel the impact that we're having on the planet the most. David, if you look at the chart here, this is just our boat overlaid on the nautical chart, and all of this here is showing as ice. So basically our GPS is showing us situated over top of the glacier, but quite obviously the glacier is still a ways in front of us. And if you zoom back, you can see, you know, this is where the chart thinks the glacier was, way back here. It thinks the glacier starts a half mile back behind us,
so it's receded,
and it's still 3/4 of a mile in front of us.
I don't even know what to say about that. And that's
I
just
haven't watched it in a while.
a piece.
Nice to watch
I
it
wrote
again.
you the other day and I said, I've watched it a few times. I couldn't stop watching it. And yeah, I think to see it through the eyes of a photographer and the scientists who know what's happening and see what's happening is it's overwhelming. It really is. When you began to understand this, did you get a little depressed by it, just seeing? It's one thing to hear about it, it's another thing to be there and to see that in one of the most pristine places, or he said the most, I don't know, in the world, that this is happening, this destruction is happening, this loss of the glaciers and the forests and everything.
It's a heavy thing to be dealing with and facing, but I think it's so important. It's the most important. Everything that we love, everything that everyone we know, every creature is on this planet, and you know, it's good to. It feels good to do something about it, but it is very sad and heavy, for sure.
So tell me something.
Hope. So you know,
What?
there's
hope. Yeah, we're not here to be depressed. We're here to, you know, you're inspiring change. So you're not. I don't think the idea is to get depressed and feel that you can't do anything. My feeling is, and you can answer me about this, is the feeling should be when you see things like this to say, what can I do? Which is your idea, again, is to bring artists together with scientists. So why are the artists so important? Okay, we just saw a film, so we know that's art's involved, but this is more kind of a documentary, right? But what is it that the artists can do that the journalists out there and the reporters and everything might
Right.
not be doing correctly? Or I don't want to say correctly, I don't mean that.
Well,
You
I
could maybe
think
do in a different way. Let's put that way.
Yeah, art has the power to make people fall in love with something. And when people love something, they want to protect it. So I think by introducing artists to scientists so that they can understand the big scope of the problem, the artist can create something that's very moving, that really gets the message across, that has that impact and re-engages people, you know, to love nature and to then want to protect it.
So I like that approach, which is, again, as we're saying, instead of looking at the bad and how terrible it is, though you see it, it's when you touch people's hearts, right? And you open people up to something, they want to protect it.
Yeah.
But I'm wondering, you know, collaboration between scientists who work in a different way and artists, and you're bringing them together, right? There's a collaboration going on. You're not just going out there and creating works of art or anything like that. You're having them come together in some way.
Yeah,
right?
they are, and they're different, and each project is very different. I mean, the Alaska thing was, you know, we had to get a boat for people's safety, you know, that we lived on, and you know, it was very elaborate. It was kind of a crazy first project. I was like, let's just go to Alaska and make an expedition, but everybody survived, so that was good. But here in South Florida, it's a bit easier because Biscayne Bay is right here. You know, the Everglades is just a little car ride. It's an easier environment to navigate. And I think that, you know, scientists and artists really have a lot in common in some ways.
Interesting.
Yeah.
What would you say that is?
I think that they're both, you know, it's a certain way of thinking. You know, artists are creating something and scientists have an idea and then they prove it. So they're kind of, there's something similar about it. Manifesting things.
Yeah, and they think out of the box. I mean, they're both, you know, it isn't like a 9-to-5 job for either of them. I mean, they think beyond what most people can think, possibilities. And yeah, so I think we should move right now to Biscayne Bay and show what you're doing there, because you're not just working on one project. It doesn't seem like at a time, right?
Yeah.
You're working on a lot of things going on. Oh, hello.
This is my dog Coral. I named her.
Hi, Coral.
The
so it's
coral reef projects that I'm working on. So
yeah, why don't you explain it and we'll move right to it.
So our programming with Waterproof Miami, our first thing that we did was with the artist scientist duo Coral Morphologic, and we created Coral City Camera, which is a live feed of an urban reef right here at the Port of Miami in Biscayne Bay that's been streaming over a year now, 24/7.
So what it's streaming is, it's a coral reef, like you say, a live reef, and people can look in anytime and just see the reef. Is it a healthy reef? It's healthy? Or
it is. Well, it's surprising that it is, but yes, it's thriving, and it's right at the tip of Dodge Island in the Port of Miami is where this camera is. And so you have the cruise ships going on one side, you have the container boats going on the other side. But yet this reef, you know, these corals, they're super corals. They've like somehow adapted to all this problematic, you know, conditions that we have here in the bay. And there's tons of fish and manatees.
Wow. So just to watch that.
Yeah.
You know, years ago on PBS and on the station that I worked at, WR, they had it wasn't a live feed, but they just had fish, I guess in a big fish, not a bowl, you know, a big aquarium. And they would just run that for hours or a certain time in the day or something. I don't know if anybody out there remembers this. And people loved it. I remember our station manager thought it was the greatest thing in the world because people were so mesmerized by seeing fish. So it's kind of like that. Why don't we take a look at that? Let's take a look at a quick look at the video so people can know what it is we're talking about.
Yeah, I always have it.
Yeah, we're going to show it. You sent me that. Yeah, here it is. Oh, we're going to look at the BBC piece first about it. This was on BBC. Again, Bridge Initiative. Yeah. Okay.
It's like a community around this undersea community, like people all over the world that are sort of gathered around this underwater campfire that we can all kind of sit around and watch the embers and the shapes take form. The star of Coral City is oval, and oval is a doctor fish that's missing its tail. It's pretty much an oval swimming around. You know, oval is so famous that there are people that log on and just want to make sure, hey, has anyone seen oval today? We're kind of like these ambassadors that are trying to translate the language of these sea creatures. How do you develop empathy between humans and sort of these faceless, brainless creatures? What we aim to do is elevate the physical beauty, present it in a way that causes wonder and curiosity. That's how you build the empathy, because people then see them as like these aliens that are right here on Earth.
Great piece.
Yeah,
Kate.
very cute.
Are you thrilled with the response that you're getting? And
Oh, yeah.
and it isn't just in Miami that people are beginning to know you. From what I understand, it's really kind of like worldwide. People are seeing the work that you're doing with this collaboration and these projects, artists and scientists.
Watched by people all over the world. I've gotten some very touching letters and thank yous from people from around the world that, you know, said that this has saved them during quarantine. People that suffer from PTSD watch it and it really calms them. It's very meditative, really.
And I understand you're a meditator yourself, as we are the Brahma Kumaris. We're a group of an organization which where meditation is of prime importance to us. It's just part of our whole life, you know. So you do meditate.
I do, yes. And I think that that's really helped me do all this work, you know, and get through some of the heaviness of climate change and things like that, and process it and be able to then do something about it and take action instead of feeling kind of paralyzed.
Wow. Well, I just see that you've changed yourself, switched careers, went on to form this amazing nonprofit where a whole big thing is going to be happening on South Beach too, with artists creating sculptures, and there's going to be a whole sculpture park, I guess 9 miles.
The reef line. It's a 9-mile artificial reef and sculpture park that we are deploying phase 1 of, hopefully in November, off of 3rd Street, but it will be concrete cast sculptures by artists that will create a marine habitat and a new ecosystem at a swimmable distance from the beach.
Congratulations in advance on another mega project that you're going to be doing. And it's just a pleasure to get to interview you, and very inspiring. And I know you inspire probably everybody that you meet with your work. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. I'm excited
Kathy.
and to meet the other people speaking.
Well, Catherine, thank you. Your work is absolutely stunning. And I don't know what to call you, a disruptor, an influencer, a creative. There's no words. It's just absolutely stunning. And I look forward to seeing more of you and more of it. So there are hundreds of remarkable projects like Kate's going on around the world on behalf of the environment. And the BKs have also been part of this global movement, including participation in the United Nations COP conferences. And COP means Conference of Parties, where government entities come together and discuss what they're willing to do on behalf of the climate. Sonia Olsen is one of the leaders of the Brahma Kumaris BK Environment Initiative. And along with Sister Genti, who we all know is the European director of the BKs, and other members of the team represent the organization at these COP conferences. We're coming up on COP 26, which was postponed in 2020 because of COVID, and I believe is now scheduled for November. So in the meantime, we're happy to have Sonia share a few pieces of information, some highlights of 2 very special global environmental projects that the BKs are involved in. And you'll also see her talk about the principles that the Brahma Kumaris have for ourselves as we live in harmony, or try to live in harmony with all of those around us. So let's take a look.
My name is Sonja Olsson. I'm from Denmark, and I'm coordinating the environment activities. We are working on two levels. We are first working in our own community, making sure that Brahma Kumari centers worldwide are managing their centers in an environmentally friendly way. We have environment policy, and we do workshops and training to emphasize these values needed for personal lifestyle change. We also have a very rich, active, practical project. In India, for example, we are very, very big on renewable energies, and we're building a solar thermal power plant in our spiritual headquarters. We are one of the biggest single users of solar energy in India. In the farming, we are having a big research project called yogic farming. So there we are adding an element of the power of thought to ecological farming. And sometimes we have special meditation for the world around us and for nature and all the elements. We also have an outreach project. We participate in UN conferences. Our message to the climate change conference is called Consciousness and Climate Change. So we work on the level of awareness, meaning that each individual has to change awareness and attitude in order to have new results on the outside. So the world out there, in a way, is a reflection of our inner world. So that would mean that we as individuals are out of balance on the inside, and we have a degradation of ethics and values and inner contentment and happiness. So with spirituality and meditation, we can help restoring the inner balance. And if each one do that, then we'll have a reflection on that on the outside. So this climate change is also actually reminding us that we are a global family, and now we have to cooperate and work together.
That's truly what it's all about, isn't it? Cooperating, working together, and see ourselves as one planet, not just separate countries, separate worlds, separate lifestyles. I have two people with me now that I'm really interested in getting to hear what they have to say. And they're working again with environment in South Florida, but two totally different environments. My first guest, they're together. Hello, MJ Algarra, and also Jane Thayer. And I'll start with MJ. MJ, she also kind of had an awakening, as I understand it. And she's a meditator, she's a yogi, and she had this experience too, kind of like Kate was talking about, where she just wanted to do something. She loved beaches, she loved nature, and she wanted to do something to help. So tell me, MJ, about what happened to you when you had this awakening.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm not sure if you can hear the noise in the background. My neighbors are having a Sunday party, so I apologize.
It happens on Zoom these days, right?
So the awakening, yes. I started doing meditation a while ago, probably 3 years ago. And I just felt very connected to Mother Nature. We were doing meditations at South Point Park, which is one of the most beautiful parks we have here in Miami. And just seeing the ocean and hearing the birds and the palm trees and the wind, I just fell into this deep, deep meditation. And I was going through a rough path where I kept asking for change. I wanted to know what was my purpose in life. I wanted to know what I could be doing that was meaningful to make a difference in my community or the world. You know, I felt at that point that I needed to do something, and my answers were given to me. I saw myself somehow floating in the back of a whale shark. I've never seen a whale shark, and it was the most vivid thing I had ever seen in my life. And the water wasn't just water, it was bioluminescent algae and plankton, and everything was just like a galaxy. It was absolutely mesmerizing. And then when I said, why am I here? I saw nothing but trash. The whale shark wasn't there anymore. So I didn't know what to do with that. They gave me an answer, but I had to find my way to what am I going to do with this? And so that's when I decided to slowly figure it out. And I created Clean This Beach Up, which is an organization Miami based, and we organize weekly cleanups here in Miami and Broward, just to bring the community together and teach them a bit about how they can also be part of the change.
It's not just a few people, though. It's a lot of people, isn't it? It started with a few people, and you have a team of people with your nonprofit. But as I understand it, more people come aboard, and you've had, I don't know, over 1,000 over time or something like that. More than that, maybe.
So in 2 years,
not at once, but yeah.
Right. In 2 years, we have been able to organize events with over 3,000 volunteers. And of course, counting 2020, that seems like a lot, because last year we had to do a lot of social distancing. But the support that we have had from the community has been amazing. We didn't expect that.
I do want to introduce Jane first. Let me just introduce Jane, and then we can kind of all chit chat together. Jane, your experience is a little bit different, isn't it? You are not out there in the Everglades, but you're working with the artists who do go out into the Everglades. And it's called AIRIE, or AIRIE, Artists in Residence in the Everglades. So from one end, from the oceans to the Everglades. And again, it's all connected. We understand that ecologically somehow, but tell me about this program and why it's lasted for so long. It's 20 years, isn't it, Jane?
Yeah, the Artist in Residence in Everglades was started in 2001 by Donna Markser, who was an artist and an advocate. It was started right around the 2000 restoration bill, Everglades restoration bill, that has brought a lot of water back into the Everglades. And so Donna and Alan Scott, who is still the chief of interpretation and education at the Everglades, started Artist in Residence. Lots of national parks have residency programs, but this one's a little different because we are a nonprofit. We are able to support the artists, fundraise, program that the national park might not have the bandwidth to oversee. And our mandate and our partnership with them is that we will bring art continuously into the park. And the artists sign a volunteer agreement. They basically become interpreters of the Everglades, part of the interpretation program. And similar to what Kate was saying about the communicative ability of artists, it's just another level of storytelling in the Everglades that our artists get to contribute to.
I was reading about one of the artists, and she just talked about the power of the silence of being in a wilderness area like that, and this feeling of just being alone and connected to nature, and that silence and that peace that she experienced. And I imagine a lot of them have had experiences like that, where it's not just about going into the Everglades for one day, and I worked on a whole documentary. I went in for a few months, but we didn't stay there. We came in, we came out. So it was pretty exciting, but it wasn't what we're talking about, is it? I mean, an artist just being there, it sounds almost like Thoreau or something, though. He was, I think, in the woods a bit longer than that.
Yeah,
but for a month.
The park, we do the residency for a month for each artist. The park, the longest you can camp or stay in the park is 2 weeks. So the park is really excited for artists to come in and have this longer experience. And I can only imagine, I haven't done it, but I can only imagine that the rhythms of the park, and yes, the sounds, and being able to observe sunrise and sunset, and when the animals are coming out, and all of the sort of intricacies of the life of the wild there in the national park is very transformative. And each of the artists that I have spoken to about their experience has definitely come away changed. And the thing about this experience I can imagine for the artists is they're listen to me, they're on a different level. They have different abilities of observation. Artists are very in tune with their environment, and so I can imagine that they perceive often on a different level than others.
The regular person.
Yeah.
Why don't we take a quick look at what goes on, or get a sense of what you all do. As we said, it's AIRIE, Artists in Residence in the Everglades, and we have a short video that we're going to show right now. Spectacular piece. Certainly makes me want to go camp out in the Everglades. And, most people probably will never see the Everglades, right? But they might see art somewhere in Miami or somewhere else in the world and get that feeling and have an experience with nature. I mean, isn't that what the Impressionist artists, many of them, were all about? We would see, all those paintings of Monet. And I used to just long to go back in time to be with, to be in some of those beautiful natural settings of just a long time ago. I want to read something, and then I'll get back to MJ here. I want to read something that one of your artists, Rebecca Reeve, quoted the writer John O'Donohue, who said, "If you go through landscape with an open heart, you will go towards it with a watchful reverence. You will be amazed at what it will reveal to you. How landscape recalls you to a mindful world of stillness and silence." And he also said one more thing I'd like to read. I know it's part of my life. "Time is the enemy of life." So all of this is about slowing down and relaxing and enjoying. And I guess that leads me to you, MJ, back to you. Being at the beach, right? if it's not spring break, right? Is that experience, but to enjoy a beautiful beach. And I read that you actually, as a child, you wanted to live close to the beach, and something else that I'd like you to share because it's kind of cool. What did you want to be when you grew up?
Well, I always wanted to be a marine biologist.
Yeah.
I always wanted to be close to the ocean. I grew up in Bogota, Colombia, so I was in the middle of the mountains, you know. And being able to move to Miami was like a dream come true. I really loved that.
And there was one other thing though. It was about, you wanted to be a mermaid, right? When you grew up.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I think that's many little girls want to be a mermaid. And I feel like now I'm a trashy mermaid. And where I go, I just swim for trash. So I think I'm living up to that.
What is the feeling though? I mean, when you do, you know, after a day's work or hours or whatever you do with a group of people, what happens with the group of people that take their time, their energy to come out and clean up the stuff that nobody else is cleaning up, right? Pick up the plastic bottles and the paper. And I mean, the garbage that people leave, which always shocks me that someone could leave anything on a beach or in a park. And now it's another problem, isn't it? It's the masks, right? Everywhere in South Florida, and I'm sure around the country, people just drop their mask, and it's not very nice, you know. But just tell me what that experience is like for the people that have come out.
To Catherine, it really resonates to me about like where you sat about, you know, finding out what's happening to our world and ecosystems. It's the same feeling, you know. It's kind of like eco-anxiety. It's to know that there's not really much we can do as individuals, but educate others and trying to inspire. So seeing so much trash and so much pollution here in South Florida, especially, is just heartbreaking. It's just heartbreaking to know that there's so many residents that it's not just the tourists, right? It's so many residents that do not take care of where they live. And I live up to the thing that we always say in Clean This Beach Up, and is protect where you love and love where you live. And so what we get in the feedback from the volunteers is that they love it because it's a way of meditating. You know, you grab a bucket or a bag and you go for a walk to the beach or to the park, and you just pick up little pieces of trash that at the end of the day might be saving a life. Same thing with the masks nowadays. Protective equipment, pollution, it's now one of our biggest fears.
Yeah. And so also the camaraderie, I mean, the feeling that people come out together, whether it's a few or a lot, something kind of magical happens. When we talk about changes, again, you are a meditator and you work on yourself with yoga, education, environmental education. What would you say or you would see are some of the big changes that people might make? I don't want to say big, because if you tell a person you have to make a big change, if someone tells me that, I run away, you know, but a change in one's lifestyle that can help contribute to a healthy planet.
I believe that it all starts at home, and as individuals, the little changes that we can make in our lifestyles to be, you know, you can call it more sustainable or greener. I always say to our volunteers that it's not about being something perfect, because perfection is, you know, it doesn't exist, but it's about trying. So you can be not perfectly vegan, not perfectly sustainable, not perfectly, you know, zero waste. It's about the little changes that we can make and to try. And so what it is to refuse single-use plastics, to get yourself a reusable water bottle, to get yourself a reusable bag, is those little changes. And people are trying, and they come up to me and they say, you really inspired me to stop using plastic bags. And it might be a lot, but imagine if we continue to inspire not one person, but thousands of people.
And I mean, it's coming to that. It really is. We're realizing how dangerous the plastic is. And, you know, even like if you give up a few plastic bags here and there, we have a video that we should show. See your group in action, right? And get people energized by what you all are doing.
Thank you. That was one of our short videos, just a little bit of couple
that
of
really
videos.
made me feel good, you know, just to think that someone took the time and the trouble to just pick that up and do that. And so if I were to give a message, it would be, we all need to do that wherever we are, right? We see something, we do it. And again, as we're talking about with both of you, you know, make a change in your life, do something where you feel, you know, I can do something, I can help. And it doesn't, as MJ's saying, and as we're talking about with Jane and the artist, it's not that everybody's going to change right away, but little by little, something will happen. And we know it's happening. There's much more awareness, you know, of caring about the planet than I've ever seen, you know. And I mean, if we go back to the first Earth Day, there were a lot of people, and I remember being involved with that so many years ago. And I think there's so many more aware people and wanting to do something, seeing maybe some of the bad things that are happening, or a lot of the bad things, saying, okay, what can I do? So I thank both of you for joining me tonight and, you know, getting your message across that this is all important stuff. It really is. And we can all try, and we can all just do something. Thank you again, both of you, for being here. Oh, you're not leaving yet. I hope nobody goes away, because I hope everybody's still here, because we are now going to introduce you to, though most of your regulars you already know, the coordinator of the Brahma Kumaris Miami, Veronica McHugh, and not just Miami, but the state of Florida. And she's been our teacher, and she's a leader, a spiritual leader, really in America too. And I know she doesn't like me to say much, so I'm not going to say anything else about her, but she's been watching, and maybe you could just give some comments about what you felt, what you saw.
Thanks, Meredith. And thank you to Kate, MJ, and Jane. I wonder if we gathered all of the people who are contributing to change, whether internal or external, just here in Miami-Dade, what size of a hall would we need to capacitate them? You know, I'm just finding out what all of you are doing, as you are finding out maybe what each other is doing. And the impetus is possibly the same. It may not have had the same seed, because sometimes people come at this from a place of maybe anger or frustration, which is okay to begin with, but that's not something that can be sustained. That we know that ultimately it has to be about love. And you were mentioning, you know, the scientist and the artist, and I was thinking that inside each one of us, there are those two components. I like to think of it in terms of the head and the heart. You know, the heart would be the artist and the head would be the scientist. And we need to get the two of them in agreement. And I think that it's the heart coming from that place maybe of stillness and quietness, etc., that can provide the energy that the mind then needs to generate right action or good action, something that will contribute to the good of the planet. And we're all, as you know, part of the ecosystem. It's not something separate from me. And in the same way that we understand how nature works and that there's a season for everything, I think of the human soul in the same way, that the human soul itself is like a seed. And if you notice, we don't see it so clearly here because we don't have the four seasons like they have in the north in the same way, but that the seed knows when it's the spring, the seed knows when it's the winter. But even within that too, that you'll find, as I once did, and I questioned it, it was springtime in England. And you look at the trees and you see some, the blossoms have already opened, and you see some others and they're just tiny buds, and others haven't yet appeared. And so I think human souls are like that too, that you might be ahead of the curve in that you're aware And I don't necessarily see this as the so-called winter of our discontent or of humanity, but I see this as the springtime. And it's about the consciousness that you bring to it. If you think it's the winter, then you think everything's dead and dying and that there's no relief. But if I see it as the springtime, that this is a generative time, and there's things that you can do in the springtime that will bring massive results that cannot be achieved at any other time. And so in terms of humanity, this is a time of awakening. And although you have budded and maybe even flowered, are in the state of flowering, others will come to it too, in their own time. And so no matter what is happening, and at the end of the day, there's no good guys and bad guys. Everything's happening, is unfolding exactly as it should. And the only thing I need to know, what am I supposed to be doing? What can I contribute? What difference can I make? And so it's kind of getting myself to align and not compromise my own conscience or my consciousness. And in that way, each one of us can do what we're supposed to do, because I really feel that if I'm coming from a reactive place, then it's like you've renounced the possibility of the magical element coming in. When I'm doing it from a place of security, in just that I know this is the right thing for me to be doing at this time, and where there's a feeling of love and of generosity of spirit, then you don't have to think about all the bad things, but another energy will come in to cooperate with you that you could not even have imagined. And I guarantee that all of you three have experienced that even at this point, the things that you could never have imagined. And so I see this as a very, very particular time. As I say, for me, it's the springtime, and knowing what I need to do and trusting in the outcome. And in terms of just generally speaking, with the Brahma Kumaris, that yes, as mentioned earlier, yes, vegetarian diet and meditation. And the key word for me in all of this is respect. You know, it's about self-respect, it's respecting every other thing, living or non-living, animate, inanimate, whatever it is, that everything has its rightful place. And so if I'm always coming from a place of respect, then of course that's accumulative as well. And so in this way, you know, others are also touched. And just maybe to finish with this idea of time, that at one level, you can see time as limited. Yes, this body that I inhabit has a lifespan, but I'm the seed, I'm the soul. I'm not limited to just this lifetime. And so when I see time in the context of eternity, and I understand time as cyclical rather than as linear, then there's not any fear about the ultimate outcome. Yes, some bad things have to happen. It's okay. But ultimately, what you're reaching for, you know, and you're already awakened, what your pure desire for yourself, for humanity, for the planet, it will come, because you may not know this now. It may not even make sense to you. But part of you, a deep, deep, deep part of you, is working from a memory of a perfect world. That you, the soul, have known a world of happiness, of equality, of joy, and with everything fully blossomed. It's a memory that's inspiring you to recreate that. And I love, there was an organization I heard about recently, and I just like the title of it very much. It's called People of the Ark. And it's an acronym, ARC, for Acts of Restorative kindness. And as meditators, that's what we believe, that what we're doing now is restoring something that once was and will be again. So thank you for your participation. Om Shanti.
Thank you so much.
Well,
Beautiful.
Thank you.
thank you, Veronica. That was a lot in a few moments. So,
Like going too long.
no. I don't mean it was too long. I meant it was very profound. I see the head shaking. Yeah. And the hearts coming. Hearts. We do have a question in the chat, and if anyone else would like to put a question in the chat, MJ actually saw it and answered it. But for those of you who might not be following the chat, the question was, what inspires or motivates you all to keep going? And MJ, since you already answered it, why don't you share your answer with us?
So I did say that, the belief and hope that we can all change and make a difference. So for me, is what keeps me and drives me is that I inspire people and people inspire me. And so that just keeps me doing cleanups every single week. And it's a lot of work what we do. And I'm pretty sure these ladies, amazing ladies, are going through the same thing. But there's nothing more rewarding than seeing that your little seed has bloom into a beautiful, tree or a beautiful flower. So when I see others just so content and happy with what we do and appreciative, I just feel inspired, and I want to continue inspiring.
Kate, how about you?
I really loved what you said earlier about that we're trying to restore everything back to the perfectness. And I mean, it's nature. Being in nature is already perfect.
Yes.
And getting to go out and see incredible things just really gives me the passion and the love to continue working on trying to restore that perfect nature again.
I certainly know I'm inspired. Two things. I've made a tentative agreement with some of the other students here to join you on the beach. And I thought it would be nice if you had, an early morning meditation, invite everybody for a sunrise meditation, and then start picking up the trash, so it's like, it just appealed to me. And the other thing I need to do when I get off here is to go look for, what did you call? Oval. I need to find Oval.
Yeah, he's an inspiration. He's my inspiration, Oval. There's another fish that's kind of famous named Ramon.
Okay.
That has, a little more Ramona sucker on him. It's a parrotfish. And so he's very identifiable in our
okay. Yeah. So I'll check them out afterwards.
And we would absolutely love to have you all. I was telling Meredith when we spoke on the phone, we started with meditation and yoga and then inviting people to do the cleanups because, people are donating their time to us and to nature and to our, community. And so we wanted to give them something in return, which would have been a meditation class or a yoga class. So we're very connected to wellness. So absolutely.
Good. Good.
That's great. Jane, how about you? What inspires you and keeps you going?
We're our organization at the moment is working to make sure that we're bringing more diverse voices into the Everglades, into the environmental movement. So it's something that I'm passionately working towards to make sure that our application and the work that we do at the park is reaching more people. And that's something that's inspiring me. It's sort of in the same restorative vein that that we were just talking about.
I'm curious, Kathy, and it's kind of related to the question. which informs which, and for each one, was it about the desire for some kind of internal growth or development that inspired the external manifestation of them taking care of that which is beyond you? Or was it through working out there first that it was like, I need to adjust my, whether it's like character, karma, consciousness, or whatever, which inspired which? Because the two ultimately have to, work together. No, ultimately it will be about you. I may not, at some point, may not be age or illness or something else may prohibit me from going to the beach or to the Everglades or whatever, but I still have to continue working on myself. No, so I'm curious. That is it okay to ask that?
Yeah, of course. I think for me, I was meditating. I started meditating, in my early 20s, and but when I went to Antarctica and then I had this idea that I needed to do something, I kind of fought with it because I had a very successful career as a fashion designer. So it was sort of like, what everybody thought I was a bit crazy even.
Yeah.
In the beginning,
Yeah.
But at that time I started doing Kundalini yoga. So really doubling down on my meditation and doing much more rigorous. And I think that really helped me make a bigger container for myself to be able to step into that role.
Wow.
That I needed to do. It was sort of like I had a calling and I wanted to ignore it, but I couldn't. And so I think through meditation practice, it helped me step up to fill the shoes
beautiful.
That, I wasn't ready to be in yet.
Yeah, beautiful.
And it's a constant work.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Did anybody start the other way around? They started working, on the environment or whatever, and then they realized that it was that was the means to induce or bring about internal change. Jane?
Yeah, I think so. I think that I've been an arts administrator for a long time and have ended up in this position with artists in residence in Everglades very recently, but have always spent time in the Everglades and recently was also feeling a shift in my interests and my connection with the environment and wanting to be able to make a change and be someone who inspires change in others. It might have happened around the time that I had my child, but I am making baby steps into pushing for more creating more change myself in what I do.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nice.
And actually, that's the tagline for the Brahma Kumaris: "When I change, the world changes." I had a little question, which is, and I've noticed that from our Third Sunday conversations across a variety of disciplines, that generally people that are inspired to take some action, they have a vision that gets them out of the box of day to day and just getting confined. I guess it's what you were talking about, Veronica, too. Make yourself a little bigger in the world. And it keeps you going even when things are difficult or you get opposition. So what is your vision? What is the vision that sustains you?
That's a good question. I'll start. I think that, it's always changing, my vision. It gets bigger and bigger as and it's like it's also led by meeting different scientists, learning about different ecosystems, or the artists that I'm working with. The artists usually kind of really have the big vision, and then I produce it. So.
And you produce it. Does this affect the vision for yourself? I guess that's where I'm kind of going with it. That the vision that, or this, the self-confidence I have, the vision I have for myself gets bigger as I begin to take these small steps, whether it's just, you know, cleaning up one thing off the beach, or stopping using plastic, or just spending time in the Everglades, or just sitting quietly at home. Does your vision for yourself get bigger? Do you feel like you're able to make change, you know, to really change the world?
Yes, definitely.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and it surprises me all the time. You know, but I think meditation and the daily practice helps me, you know, like be a bigger, better person, because it's for representing the earth, you know, like trying to be a spokesperson for these ecosystems.
It's interesting because, you know, what I hear in what you're saying, not exactly paradoxical, but on the one hand, the bigger vision, taking on more responsibility. And the other side of that is a greater humility.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think Jerry Garcia said, someone's got to do something about this, and it's a shame it has to be me, you know?
Of the doors, Jerry Garcia.
It has to be us.
Not
And
the
that's what I
doors.
feel like all the time, like, you know?
Yeah, that's the thing. That's the thing. It's like, it's this other, I'm always intrigued by, there's another kind of energy that is not, you can't grasp it or box it or anything else, but it responds to a consciousness. It responds to even what you talk about. And today in our own session this morning, this idea that if you take one step of courage, just one step, it's like as if all this other pure energy comes towards you to assist you in that. And so it's like you become an instrument for something, but not that arrogance, I'm making this happen, it's me that's doing it. But it's like you become a vessel for something to work through you to get something done.
Yes.
Yeah. It's like we sometimes say, you know, that I have a duty, and we have a sense, yes, it's my duty to do this as a citizen of Miami-Dade, of the world, whatever it is, it's my duty. But the responsibility lies with the supreme source of energy, ultimately, that you're working for something higher.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think what keeps all of us going are people like you that inspire us. It's not the action per se, but it's the enthusiasm and determination and vision and confidence that you bring to the task. Yeah, that's so inspiring. Yeah. So I think it's a good time to transition to meditation. So after all of our chatting and talking, and you've presented so many wonderful ideas and inspiring ideas that I think will change all of us, this is the time to become more subtle and to take a moment to relax, to bring our attention and my awareness to our inner environment. We've been talking about the physical environment, but let's spend a moment with our own inner environment and letting go of any thoughts or any worries or any responsibilities that we might have for the next few minutes, and give ourselves an opportunity to have a nice meditation. We have opportunity now to enjoy in a very subtle way, using our imagination to take ourselves into a quiet meditation. We'll be back at the conclusion for some final thoughts and announcements. So enjoy your meditation.
You're in the heart of the ancient forest. These trees have been standing peacefully on the earth for hundreds of years. The atmosphere is humming with peace. The tree in front of you is an ideal spot to sit. As you sit and rest your back against the trunk, it's as if the tree gives a little, molding itself to the shape of your back. Be still and absorb the environment of peace. Your attention is drawn to the forest floor by a silvery sparkle. It's a little silver seed. This is a seed of peace. Just as these great trees grew from tiny seeds, great peace will grow from this peace seed. Pick up the seed and hold it in your hand. It's starting to glow. The peace seed is awakening. Hold the seed close to your heart. Sense it radiating a lovely, peaceful feeling. Allow the peaceful feeling into your heart. Through the canopy of leaves overhead, golden sunlight is shining down. It warms the top of your head and shoulders. Soft rays of sunlight nourish the seed of peace. Peace radiates from the seed into your heart. And spreads into the environment around you. This peace is so nurturing. Right now, you don't need anything. You're content, just sitting quietly, holding the seed of peace, relaxing in the golden sunlight. From the middle of your beautiful silver seed comes a silvery fine thread. It reaches up toward the light, and a thought of peace plays across your mind. I am peaceful. Each time you think the thought, you feel even more peaceful. I am peaceful. I am peaceful.
to honour the memory and life of Daddy Yankee, who flew home yesterday. This is a song I wrote for her some years ago. It's called A Love Song of a Tiny Flower. A tiny flower breaks the stone, her roots connected far below. She drinks the power of the sun, a testament to anyone who's taken on what seems to be impossible, with faith to launch 1,000 stars, to ride a comet straight to Mars, when all opposed refuse to see and say that it will never be. Collective mind and one belief, impossible. The quiet way unseen by eyes, who seek to shine a neon light, the gentle, strong, insistent flow of one who says, I do not know, but understand and show in ways remarkable. I wish to swing out of the sea and stand inside this landscape me, a solitude of still repose, and quiet concept there compose, not for applause and not for need of anything. If I could see all that you see, a love that knows not fear, the world could fall, and through it all, a love song I would hear, a love song I would
So that song was performed by Lucinda Drayton in honor of the former head of the Brahma Kumaris, Daddy Yankee. And Daddy left this physical plane about a year ago at the age of 104. And she embodied all those qualities that we were talking about tonight: greatness, humility, love, determination, and so much more. She was a friend to everyone. And I encourage MJ and Kate, if you're interested, Google Daddy Yankee, not the rap star Daddy Yankee, but Daddy Yankee of the Brahma Kumaris. And in her speech to the General Assembly at the UN, they've actually made it into a rap song, but the line that that I always stick with is like, make it happen. And I think that was sort of her mantra and yours too. So any final thoughts, Meredith or MJ or Kate, Veronica?
Well, I felt like being in the company of such beautiful people, you know, what touched me is you're all very authentic, that you are real, you're coming from deep within, from your hearts to serve. And so it's not really so much what you can do or what you're going to do, it's what you are, and you're spreading this experience. And that's why people are, you know, jumping on the bandwagon with both of you. I think Jane left already, she had to leave. But it was just the feeling when I first came into this meditation with the Brahma Kumaris, like over 35 years ago. And Veronica, and I would ask you, Veronica was my first teacher, are there really going to be more people doing this? In those days, there weren't that many meditators that I knew. I guess they were there somewhere. And you'd say, they will come. Just keep doing this. They will come. Do programs, do meditations. And I just followed, you know, all the teachers and said, you know, it didn't even matter. It was just this feeling of that we were all together doing these kinds of things. And then I see in the world how it is changing, and there's just more people waking up. As you said, Veronica, it's the spring. This is the time of the true awakening. So I'm leaving this program just feeling so full, just so fulfilled. So thank you for being with us, all of you. As we say, Om Shanti. That means I am peace.
And I'm excited to learn more about your center and community.
Come and visit us. I don't know if it was apparent, and maybe it's not even important to most people, but I still think it's significant that many years ago, 85 years ago, and Daddy Janki at that time would have been a slip of a woman. She would have been about 20, and to have created, not that she was the instrument for it, but what later became a worldwide organization that's run by, maybe the biggest spiritual organization in the world, is run by women. And so for them to have done that way back in the 30s, never mind, Meredith, when you came 30 odd years ago, but 85 years ago, that she was going against what was totally the norm of her culture and her religion and everything else, knowing that she had something huge to contribute in terms of changing the world. And so I guess the wisdom, you know, that saw that in particular the qualities of women needed to be utilized in this birthing experience of the new world, if you like, to be the, what do you call the ones who assisted birth, the doulas or the midwives or whatever for the new birth. Yeah. So again, please, I think we have to arrange that people can actually come and have a meal with us or something. We're very easy to find. We're just off Lejeune, we're not far away. And so come and visit. I'd love to get to know you better too. Yeah.
And Meredith is a real professional, and she identifies the most important people to bring to the conversation on any given topic, this being one of them. And so Meredith, you didn't share what your career was before public TV.
It went so quickly. This night went so fast. I didn't have any time. I didn't have a second. I actually worked in forestry before I got into television. I worked for the Forest Service and for other organizations, and I went to a forestry school, and that's because I love nature. I once spent an entire summer in wildernesses all throughout the West, where I did not live in anything but a sleeping bag for an entire summer, not one time, outside in the wilderness. And I just always loved nature. And I think I was searching for peace. Now I realize that when I came back to Miami, kind of like you did, Kate, right? Came back to Miami, and I realized I had to do something else. I didn't know what, I had no idea. And I ended up in a PBS station, and that was it for me. You know, my work was in TV for PBS, but it all had to do with peace. It had to do with, I was searching for truth. And I think nature can open you up to that, can give you that experience. So,
So we have you folks that are really living in harmony with nature. And I remember Eckhart Tolle famously said, the trees are just waiting for us to acknowledge them.
Oh, how beautiful.
The trees have their own personality, and
Yes.
that changed my whole perspective. Even as I would take a walk around in the city and see a tree and began to recognize their personalities, just like you do, Kate, with Oval and your other friends, and Jay, you with all your volunteers and the reefs and all the things that you see when you go swimming to pick up the trash. I'm sure they appreciate it immensely.
Yeah.
So I hope we'll get to see you all again soon at the center or online. And we are on all social media. I hope you'll follow us. Check us out on Facebook or Instagram, Twitter. We're on all the platforms. And on third Sundays, BK centers around the world open their centers for meditation for world peace. And we've been doing that in the USA for more than 40 years.
Wow.
So I hope you'll continue to join us on third Sunday or any other Sunday or during the week. So again, thank you all so very, very much for being part of tonight's program. And we always have this greeting, Om Shanti. Om, if you know BK, you've heard Om Shanti. So Om means I am and Shanti, peace. So Om Shanti to you all and have a great night.
Thank you.